Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Legal Hands to the Face podcast with your man, Bill Colarulo. We had to delay it a day. Normally, we come live to you guys every Monday night at 6:30. I was on a vacation with my family, trying to enjoy myself, and the Philadelphia Eagles almost ruined my trip. I'm not going to say they ruined my trip. I was with my kids. They had a blast. But the Philadelphia Eagles really tried to ruin my trip. And I couldn't wait to get on here to talk to everybody about this freaking game because it had me infuriated what this team did, what the coaching staff did, what the offensive game plan was coming into this game. But we're going to talk about it all. I want to break down the Eagles-Jets game, talk about the signing of Julio Jones. Everybody's all excited. Julio Jones, you hear his name. We need to relax a little bit. I'll tell you why. Also want to take a look at some of these injuries. We have Dr. Radcliffe joining the show in the 7:30 segment to talk about all of these injuries. Normally, we have Dr. Radcliffe for 15 minutes. I don't know if 15 minutes is going to be enough for Dr. Radcliffe with all the injuries on this team over the last couple of weeks. And then I also want to preview the Philadelphia Eagles-Miami Dolphins Week 7 matchup. Guys, if you're here, I know this is a new time. Normally we do it Mondays at 6:30, but if you're watching live, be sure hit that like button, hit that share button, comment, engage. Let me know how you guys feel about things. I love to look at the comments, shout you guys out. So be sure to do that. Also, some housekeeping. You may know I also host the Philly Sports Power Hour right here on the JAKIB Sports Network every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. So be sure to tune in tomorrow. We got a lot to talk about, not only with this Eagles team, but we also focus all Philly sports. So we'll talk some Philadelphia Phillies tomorrow who are on fire. So I'm going to take you guys tonight till the 8 o'clock hour, get you ready, and then you can turn on your Philadelphia Phillies, Arizona Diamondbacks. Hopefully Phils go up 2-0. But smash that like button, smash that share button. And as always, guys, if you're not already following all the social media platforms, be sure to check it out. Legal Hands to the Face. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and you can get me, Bill Colarulo, on Twitter. But let's look at this Philadelphia Eagles 20-14 loss against the New York Jets. The San Francisco 49ers lose earlier in the day. This would have been a perfect opportunity for the Philadelphia Eagles to go up a game in the NFC. Something that we've all been worried about is who's going to get that number one seed. It's early. We're only in week 6, but we're all looking forward to who's going to get the only bye in the NFC. Who's going to get that home field advantage? Because if you look at all the experts, everyone's saying, hey, it's going to be 49ers, Eagles in that NFC championship game. Who's going to have home field advantage? Well, the 49ers lose. And the Eagles are playing the New York Jets. And I don't want to hear that the New York Jets are a better team than people give them credit for. I think the New York Jets stink, okay? I think they stink. And I'm going to go through the stats, and I'm going to tell you why they stink. And I'm sick of hearing about, oh, they have a good defense. They don't have a good defense. This Philadelphia Eagles offense and coaching staff lost this game. The New York Jets didn't win this game. You've heard that expression before. Teams win games. No, the Eagles lost this game. The Jets didn't win it. And I see James McKeith. Glad you're back. Hope you had a good vacation with the family. Thanks, James. It's good to be back. And like I've said to you guys before, no more vacations during Eagle season. This was something that was planned long before we had these shows going. So now that these shows are here, vacations happen in the offseason. Too much going on for me to not be here for the last 2 days to be on the Philly Sports Power Hour with you all, and now Legal Hands to the Face. But the Philadelphia Eagles lost this game. lost this game. Jets didn't win it. And it wasn't this Eagles defense. We knew the Jets offense sucked coming into the game. I gave you guys the stats last week. The Jets offense was 27th in the NFL in yards per game, only putting up 283 yards per game. They were 24th in the NFL, only putting up 18 points per game. 32nd last in the NFL in passing yards, 160 yards per game. The one thing they did do well was run the football. They were 10th in the NFL at 123 yards. This defense showed up. The Philadelphia Eagles defense showed up. They held them to only 244 yards. They gave up 20 points. And really, if you look at it, they gave up 12. Because 8 of those points, the offense gave to the New York Jets. They held Zach Wilson to only 155 passing yards. They were only averaging 160, which was worse than the NFL. Eagles hold them to 155, and that's with a banged-up secondary. No Darius Slay, no Justin Evans, no Sidney Brown. Eli Ricks goes out. Bradley Roby goes out. Reed Blankenship goes out. This defense did their job in this game. I see Matt Lagoy. What's up? Welcome back. D-line showed up. That's about it. I agree, Matt. 5 sacks in that game. Xavier Spencer, we sure did. Dropped passes, missed field goals. Defense held their ground. And guys, if you're listening to the audio of this on your podcast platforms later on, this is recorded live. So if you hear me shouting out comments, it's because this is a live show. So be sure to check out the live show next time so you guys can engage if you're listening to the audio. But the defense showed up. And we talk about this Eagles defense needing to be better on third down and in the red zone. Coming into the game, the Eagles were 26th in the NFL, allowing teams to convert on third down 45% of the time. They held the Jets to 2 of 11 on third down, 18%. They needed to be better in the red zone. They were 30th in the red zone on defense, allowing teams to score touchdowns 75% of the time. They held the Jets to 1 of 4. And the only time the Jets scored a touchdown was because the Eagles were letting them score at the end of the game, which I'm still not sure was the best move, but that was the move they made. Sirianni wouldn't admit it, but clearly they let Breece Hall score. So the Eagles defense did everything they needed to do, and they put up 5 sacks. And let's talk about our man, Hassan Reddick, because I think he is back. He said it when he got that cast off, that he felt like he could finally get back to the Hassan Reddick he was before. And now, in the last 3 games, he has 5.5 sacks. He is on fire. And the Eagles do all this, like I said, with all those injuries. And I can't wait till Dr. Radcliffe comes on later in the show because we need to talk to him about who can we expect back on both sides of the football. On offense, we all know Lane Johnson went out. We felt Lane Johnson going out of that football game. But the only thing the defense didn't do that maybe we could have asked of them was to force a turnover. This Jets offense was 20th in the league coming in, turning the ball over 8 times. Eagles don't force a turnover. But that is not why they lost this game. This defense did enough to win this damn football game. The Eagles lost this game before the freaking first snap because the offensive coaches decided to roll out a horrible game plan. Absolutely horrible game plan. We said it last week. Coming into this game, the New York Jets had the 29th ranked rushing defense in the NFL, giving up 146 yards per game. What did the Eagles decide to do? Eagles decide to throw the ball 45 damn times in this game, even with Lane Johnson out and Jack Driscoll being a turnstile over there at right tackle. Eagles throw the ball 45 damn times. And they run the ball 22 times, but 8 of those were Jalen Hurts. So they only gave their running backs 14 carries in this game. You're the number 2 rushing offense in the NFL coming in. You're averaging 4.6 yards per carry. You're putting up 164 yards per game. You're going up against the 29th ranked defense in the NFL. And you give your running backs 14 carries. And it gets even worse. 4 of those carries to the running backs came on the second to last drive when the Eagles were trying to run the clock out. So they only gave their running backs 10 damn carries the entire game against the 29th worst rushing defense in the NFL. Really smart game plan. And I see Xavier Spencer there, run the damn ball. And I did a video about this on my Instagram, and a couple people commented, oh, that wasn't the reason they lost. They lost because they turned the ball over 4 times. Yeah, 3 of those turnovers happened while they were throwing the ball. Run the damn football. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see a video I just put up that has me even more infuriated than I was watching the damn game. What's up, Dre Day? Bill keeps it all the way real. Love it. Appreciate you too, Dre. But this had me even angrier than when I was watching the game. We knew they needed to run the football, but listen to this. The Jets are now 3-3 this season. Obviously, coming into the game, they were 2-3. In their 3 losses, the opposing offenses ran the ball over 35 times. And in the Jets' 3 wins, the opposing offenses only ran the ball 22 times. Just listen to these stats. The New England Patriots ran the ball 40 times, gave their running backs 36 carries. Jets lose. The Kansas City Chiefs, with Andy Reid, who we know would never commit to the run, runs the ball 35 times and gives 28 carries to his running backs and a couple to his wide receiver, Sky Moore. The Dallas Cowboys, with Mike McCarthy, who we say is a horrible play caller, a horrible coach, runs the ball 43 times, giving his running backs 37 carries. Jets lose the game. In all 3 of the Jets' losses, at least 35 runs and at least 28 carries for the running backs. Well, let's look at the Jets' wins. They beat the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton decides to only run the ball 22 times and give his running backs only 15 carries. Jets win. The Buffalo Bills in week 1 decide to give their running backs only 16 carries, a total of 22 runs. Jets win. So the Eagles look at this and decide, hey, you know what? Let's not do what the 3 teams did that beat the Jets. Let's do what the 2 teams did that lost to the Jets and only run the ball 22 times and only give our running backs 10 freaking carries before the final drive when we're trying to run the clock out. This isn't that hard to figure out. This isn't that hard to figure out. And I've been a defendant of Brian Johnson. I have been defending him, saying that I was expecting him to grow into this role. And coming into the game, it's hard to be angry with the Eagles. They were 5-0. Their offense was starting to click on all cylinders. They were averaging over 400 yards per game. They were averaging over 164 rushing yards per game. This was a team who was starting to come along, who was starting to, I talked about it on the Philly Sports Power Hour last week, that this Eagles offense was just as good statistically as they were last season. But you go into a game like this and you roll out a game plan like what you just rolled out, and it's hard to defend you, Brian Johnson. It's hard to defend you, Nick Sirianni. And I see Matt Lagoy's question, who's more at fault, Brian Johnson or Sirianni? I think it's a 50-50 split, Matt. I think it's a 50-50 split, and here's why. Brian Johnson's the one calling the plays. We know that. But we also know that NFL coaches script the first drive. That is scripted. And Nick Sirianni is involved in the game plan. And the first Philadelphia Eagles drive, they run 8 straight passing plays. I knew it. I'm watching that first drive. They run 8 straight passing plays, and I'm saying, they're going to try to outsmart everybody. They're going to try to outsmart everybody. Let's throw the football against a team that hasn't been able to stop the damn run, a team that hasn't won a game when the opposing offense has had 35 carries in a game. They decide to throw the football. And I understand that the two starting corners were out, so you want to give it a shot. Hey, maybe we can throw the football against this team. Well, you couldn't really throw the football against this team, especially once Lane Johnson went out and Jack Driscoll's in there. He's not the same guy. And one of the things we saw the Philadelphia Eagles do so well in previous weeks was running 12 personnel with two tight ends on the field and really establishing that running game. Well, in this game, Jack Stoll was only on the field for 30% of the offensive snaps. They did not run a lot of 12 personnel in this game. They really decided to just spread out and try to throw the football. And look, I'm not absolving the players here because you also have to execute, and this Philadelphia Eagles team did not execute. You saw some really uncharacteristic things in that game. Devontae Smith doesn't drop passes, and he had a drop that was huge. Could have been a big gain. Could have changed the game. Definitely could have changed the game. Just want to check in on the chat here. A-Track, same here. I lost $250 because of them. All you got to do is run the football there. Putting the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands, too much. Xavier Spencer, agree. The play calling was trash. Damian, for real, they should just run the ball. We have an elite running back core. So frustrating. So frustrating watching this game. But again, we can't absolve the players. Devontae Smith, big drop. DeAndre Swift, big fumble. Dallas Goedert, he's the reason for that one interception. We talked about Jack Driscoll. I don't want to keep piling on Jack Driscoll. There's a reason he's a backup. But you have to be able to next man up mentality and be able to at least give us something at that right tackle position. And we're going to talk to Dr. Radcliffe later in the show about can we expect Lane Johnson against this Miami Dolphins team, because we're going to preview this game in the next segment, and this isn't going to be an easy game, as you guys all know. But let's talk about Jalen Hurts. And I get it. There's a lot of Jalen Hurts defenders out there. And let me start by saying I am one of the biggest Jalen Hurts fans out there. I have been a Jalen Hurts fan since he came into this league and the Eagles drafted him. I loved when the Eagles drafted him. Maybe one of the only people who did love when the Eagles drafted him. There wasn't many, and people started to come around. But I feel like every single time I criticize Jalen Hurts, people come out and attack me because Eagles fans, for whatever reason, if you're on the Hurts train, you can't handle when Hurts gets criticized. And I'm telling you, I am a fan of Jalen Hurts. I love that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of this Philadelphia Eagles team. But at the same time, we have to be able to criticize him when he plays poorly, and he played poorly on Sunday. I did a video, an instant reaction video, talking about how Jalen Hurts played terrible, and I had people attacking me about it's not Jalen Hurts, it's not Jalen Hurts. We can be honest. I love Jalen. Jalen's a great leader. I love the culture that he has helped build. I love that he wants the ball in his hands at the biggest moments. And what I love most about Jalen Hurts is how he responds to adversity. And now we will see what Jalen Hurts does because he had a bad football game. And you look at the 3 interceptions. Yes, 2 of those interceptions weren't his fault. One of them, Dallas Goedert, we just talked about it. That's on him. The other one, Driscoll gets beat. Hurts' arm gets hit. That interception happens. But that 3rd interception that Jalen Hurts threw was, in my opinion, the worst pass of Jalen Hurts' NFL career. We have not seen Jalen Hurts do something that bad since his rookie season. Not only is it a horrible throw, he does a terrible job of reading the defense. And at that moment in the game, 3rd and 9 only a couple minutes left. The only thing you cannot afford to do is turn the ball over. In fact, unless it is a sure completion, you tuck that ball. Take the sack even if you have to, because allow the clock to run. But what he does is he makes a terrible decision, throws that interception, and that loses you the football game. Because let's face it, what this Eagles defense was doing in that game, Zach Wilson was not driving down the field and scoring a touchdown to win that game. He just wasn't going to do it. I don't even think they would have gotten to field goal range. Score was 14-12 at that point. So they would have had to have gotten into field goal range. And I don't think they do. If Jalen Hurts simply even takes a sack there and the Eagles punt, I think the Eagles win that football game. I think this defense was doing enough all day to shut down that terrible Jets offense. That Jets offense sucks, man. And that's why I'm so pissed off. And I have Jets fans hitting me up on Instagram because I called them the lowly New York Jets after the game that the Eagles lost to the lowly New York Jets. The Jets offense sucks. They sucked before they came into the game, and they still suck. This Jets offense did nothing in that game. This Eagles offense lost the game. And I talked about how a lot of these players just did some uncharacteristic things. You can't forgive Jake Elliott. 37-yard field goal. That's automatic for Jake. But now you hear me all angry and you hear me freaking out. But at the same time, this is why teams don't go 17-0 every year. You're going to have these uncharacteristic games. You're going to have it where a few of your players aren't firing on all cylinders and mistakes happen. This game reminded me so much of the Washington Commanders' loss last year. Turnovers, uncharacteristic plays, Eagles lose. But what just infuriated me was, the Eagles' offense wasn't necessarily playing well. They were making mistakes. Jake Elliott misses a field goal. But if they simply ran the football, they steal a win here. The Eagles would have stole a win. They didn't play their best football, and we've talked about that in weeks past. It's not always about playing your best football. If you get the win in this league, that's big. And the Eagles should have walked out of the Jets Stadium, MetLife Stadium, with a win, even though they weren't playing their best football. But they simply didn't do it because of a horrible game plan, horrible play calling, and Jalen Hurts making the biggest mistake I've seen him make since his rookie season. And the corner who made that interception, Tony Adams, for the Jets, said after the game that the Jets defensive coaches basically told him, fake like you're coming, then drop into coverage, and Jalen Hurts will throw it right to you. And that's exactly what happened. That's concerning to me. That is really concerning to me. Because if the Jets defensive coaches, and they're good coaches, but if the Jets defensive coaches were able to pick up on that Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be able to read the coverage before the snap even occurred, that is a problem for me. Jalen Hurts needs to be better. No doubt about it. And he'll be the first to tell you he needs to be better. And like I said, before I get attacked from all the Jalen Hurts defenders, I love Jalen Hurts. I think he is the best thing that could have happened to this Philadelphia Eagles team when they drafted him. But he needs to play better, and we are allowed to say that he needs to play better. But let's take a look at some of these snap counts from that Jets game that I found a little bit surprising. A lot of people have been hitting me up when I've been talking about how the Eagles needed to run the football. And they've been hitting me up about, why isn't Rashad Penny getting more touches? What's going on with Rashad Penny? Guys, I'm at the point with Rashad Penny that I think he's done, man. I think he's done. I know what he did when he was in Seattle, when he was healthy, averaging over 5.9 yards per carry. I don't think he's the same guy. I think these injuries have finally gotten to him. And Kathy Messiano, I see you. You're the best. You're the best too, Kathy. I appreciate you. But you talk about Rashad Penny. We saw it in the preseason. I said it. I did a video about this saying that I thought Trey Sermon had a real chance to beat out Rashad Penny for that final running back position. People said I was crazy. Rashad Penny is not the same guy he was in Seattle. The injuries have finally taken their toll on him. And I feel bad because the guy had a ton of talent. But they don't even activate him for this game. That is telling. That is telling. Rashad Penny not even activated for the game against the Jets. He's done. I think we got to stop saying, give the ball to Penny, give the ball to Penny. If they had any belief in this guy at all, you would have seen him get some touches. They're just not giving it to him. I see Damian saying he still believes in Penny, but he agrees with me. I just don't think they have any confidence in him. Maybe he'll prove us wrong. But you look at the other running backs. Pull up the stats. They gave DeAndre Swift 10 carries. He only had 18 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. And you look at that and you say, oh, well, maybe that's why they stopped running the football. You didn't give the guy enough opportunity to even get into a rhythm in this game. Like I said, a few of those carries came in the last drive in the fourth quarter. He had single-digit carries the entire game. And what we've seen with DeAndre Swift over the first 5 weeks of the season is every time he touches the ball, he has the potential to hit a home run. Keep feeding him the football. Good things will eventually happen when you're going up against a bad rushing defense. They give him 10 carries. Kenny Gainwell, 2 carries. Boston Scott, 2 carries. I just still can't believe this team decided to give only 14 carries to their running backs. And then you look at no other real surprises on the offense. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, both in the 90% of the snaps. The one thing I did find surprising, like I said, was that Jack Stoll only played 22 snaps in this game, didn't run a lot of 12 personnel. But let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball because that defense did play very well. And one of the big surprises there, for me at least, was how much playing time they gave Nakobe Dean. Because if you listened last week, if you follow the Philly Sports Power Hour show, I had talked about how I did not want to take Nicholas Morrow off the field. Nicholas Morrow was one of the best rated linebackers in the entire NFL by Pro Football Focus, and I did not want to take him off the field. But the Eagles do it. Looks like they ran a little bit of a rotation. Zach Cunningham played 75% of the snaps at linebacker, but Morrow only played 55%, and Dean right behind him with 49%. So it looks like they are going to do some sort of rotation. I still thought Morrow played well. Dean did some nice things as well. So we have a good problem there if you have 3 linebackers who can actually play some football. But with Jalen Carter out of the game, Fletcher Cox, man, he's a beast. And sometimes I think in Philadelphia, he doesn't get as much recognition as he deserves at times. I think we do realize and recognize how good of a career he's had. But what he's doing right now, he just came out. He missed last week because he had an epidural on his back. He played 78% of the defensive snaps this week. 78% a week after getting an epidural on his back. You got to give credit to Fletcher Cox. Jordan Davis stepped it up with Jalen Carter being out. Played 68% of the snaps. And Xavier Spencer, spot on, man. I believe Jordan Davis did well with a sack against the Jets. Spot on, Xavier. Jordan Davis played really well. And that was the most snaps he's played this year, 68%. And Milton Williams, 63% of the snaps. So these guys stepped up. We all had concerns about Jalen Carter being out. These other D tackles stepped up. You know who else stepped up? Kentavious Street. He played 35% of the snaps. And check this, Pro Football Focus had him as the highest rated defender on that Philadelphia Eagles team. Now, look, He didn't play as many snaps as these other guys. But that is a good sign. He played 35% of the snaps, and he's the highest rated defender on that Philadelphia Eagles defense. This D tackle group, man, is so damn deep. Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and now you got Kentavious Street playing well. Love it. Howie Roseman knows how to build along the defensive line. That is for sure. And then we talked about Hassan Reddick. He's back. He is back. But I'm still just so upset because I said to you guys, teams don't go 17-0. We get it. You're going to have bad games. And this was a bad game for the Eagles offense. Things were happening that were uncharacteristic, but you still could have won the game. You still could have won the game if the coaches simply didn't screw it up with the offensive game plan and the play calling. And I thought Brian Johnson was starting to do a better job. I have been defending him. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been defending him that I thought he was doing better. But there's a feel for a game. And that's why when Matt LaGoy asked earlier, do you blame Nick Sirianni or do you blame Brian Johnson? Sirianni shares the blame because they developed the game plan together. Bad game plan. But once you're in the game and once you're seeing what's happening and you're getting a feel for how the game is going, as a play caller, you have to be able to take a step back and say, hey, wait a second. Let's throw that game plan out. Let's run the football. Let's give our running backs a little bit more carries than what we're giving them. Get them some rhythm in this freaking game. Maybe DeAndre Swift breaks one for us. Hey, let's get Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott involved. Let's stop running the ball so much with Jalen Hurts. And I know the Eagles offense did better in the red zone in this game, which was probably the only good sign because they were going up against a Jets defense that was number 3 in the NFL in red zone defense coming in. And the Eagles do go 2 of 3 for 67%. Coming into the game, they were 27th in the NFL, only 42%. But I got to be honest, even that first touchdown, I hated the play calls. I think it was 3rd and goal from the 10. I want to make sure I got that right. Yeah, 3rd and goal from the 10, and they run a quarterback draw. Makes it 4th and goal from the 3. And then they run the draw again, and they are lucky that Jalen Hurts extended that ball and got the touchdown before it was considered a fumble. But just such vanilla play calls down at the goal line. 2 quarterback draws, 3rd and 10, quarterback draw. 4th and 3, quarterback draw. 0 creativity in the red zone. So I don't want to be too upset. They do go 2 of 3, but the red zone is still a problem for this team. And when we look at the Miami Dolphins preview, we'll talk about where the Eagles currently stand in the NFL, and it's still not good when it comes to red zone conversions. But guys, I want to take our first break. When we come back, I want to take a look at the new Eagles signing, Julio Jones, why everyone needs to just relax. You hear the name Julio Jones, you get excited, but this isn't going to move the needle too much for this Eagles team, in my opinion. And then at 7:30, we'll be joined by Dr. Chris Radcliffe to go over some of these injuries. We'll be back in 3 minutes, guys.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Legal Hands to the Face Philadelphia Eagles show with your man, Bill Colarulo. I appreciate everybody here engaging in the comments. I see a Tank. What's up, Damian, Xavier, Matt Lagoy, Kathy, Linda? I see you guys. I do appreciate it. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. We're going to be joined by Dr. Chris Radcliffe shortly to talk about all of these injuries for such a healthy team last year, with all 22 opening day starters being able to appear in that Super Bowl. The injury bug got this team early in the preseason, and it's continued. The good news is a lot of these injuries don't look like they're going to be long-term, but that Eagles secondary is banged up. No Justin Evans, no Sidney Brown. Reed Blankenship hurts his ribs. Darius Slay was out. Bradley Roby goes out in that game. Eli Ricks goes out in that game. Philadelphia Eagles had to bring back a familiar face in Josiah Scott, who was on the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. So we'll see. We will see, because I want to start to preview that Miami Dolphins game, and we're going to need all hands on deck on that defense. But before we do, another signing the Philadelphia Eagles just made a little bit before we came on the air. Julio Jones, wide receiver. Everybody got very excited. I saw it all over Instagram. I shared it. People are commenting. They're all excited about Julio Jones because you see the name, and Julio Jones, what a career he has had. This will be his 13th NFL season, but he's 34 years old. And although he's had an unbelievable career, over 900 catches in his career, 13,629 yards, 63 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he hasn't played more than 10 games since 2019. He's been very injury prone over the last few years. But even worse, if you look at some of these stats, he's just not the same guy that he used to be. In 2022 with the Tampa Bay Bucks, he only played 10 games. He only had 24 catches, 299 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he averaged 12.5 yards per catch. In Tennessee in 2021 with A.J. Brown, who really wanted him to join that wide receiver core for the Titans. Julio Jones, 10 games, 31 catches, 434 yards, 1 touchdown, and 14 yards a catch. He's just not the Julio Jones that we all remember from those Atlanta Falcons days. Now, could he help this team? Maybe, because you don't need Julio Jones to be your wide receiver 1 or your wide receiver 2. You have A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith. This is more about, is he going to play at that wide receiver 3? And Matt LaGoy just commented he thinks he's better than Quez and Zacchaeus. I'm not sure you're going to even see Julio Jones take over that wide receiver 3 position. I'm just not sure what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do with a guy who's 34 years old, who hasn't played more than 10 games in over 3 years. Do you even give him that wide receiver 3? This may be a guy who gets a limited number of snaps every single week. You have a few play calls designed for him to see what he has left. Now, one of the things that got me excited when I first saw the signing was, hey, maybe Julio Jones can help us out in the red zone, because this Philadelphia Eagles team has really struggled in the red zone. Maybe Julio Jones can help. But I went and started looking at his stats, and it's really interesting that he's not been a guy that's been that good in the red zone. You would think with his size and his body and his ability to go up and catch the ball at the highest level, that he would have been really good in the red zone. He just hasn't been. He's only had more than 8 touchdowns in his career once in 12 seasons. Only more than 8 touchdowns one time in 12 years. A.J. Brown, he's had 9. Twice. Julio Jones is only averaging 5 touchdowns a season. If he was a guy who was really good in the red zone, you would see that touchdown number a lot higher. And then in 8 out of his 12 seasons, he had 6 touchdowns or less. For a guy who has over 900 catches, over 13,600 yards, in 8 of his 12 seasons, 6 touchdowns or less. Just not a guy who's been very good in the red zone. Now, how much of that could be play design for the teams he played with? I don't know. But that was an alarming stat for me, because I was hopeful this was going to be where he could help this Eagles team, would be in the red zone. But what do you guys think? I mean, I see Matt LaGoy over there saying he thinks he's better than Quez and Zacchaeus. What do you think Julio Jones does for this Philadelphia Eagles offense? And really, I got to be honest, I'd rather see them bring in another running back than an old, aging wide receiver. I don't think that's the Philadelphia Eagles' problem. I think Zacchaeus is good enough as your wide receiver 3. And I think Zacchaeus is better than Quez. And Quez is now on IR. But if you listened last week or you follow the Philly Sports Power Hour, I was furious that they gave Quez Watkins as many reps as they gave him last week before the Jets game instead of Olamide, when Olamide Zacchaeus has delivered when he's been in the game. Matt LaGoy, any other wide receiver 3 out there, Hunter Renfrow. But that's what I'm about to get into, Matt. I would rather them bring in another running back. If you don't trust Rashad Penny, you're at the point where you're not even going to dress the guy on game days, bring in a big back. Because my problem with what the Philadelphia Eagles did by letting Trey Sermon go, and not saying maybe he was the answer, but he was another big body similar to Rashad Penny. But what I don't like what this Philadelphia Eagles team did is, as good as DeAndre Swift is, look how big DeAndre Swift is. Look at Kenny Gainwell. Look at Boston Scott. You have 3 running backs who are all on the smaller side. DeAndre Swift is listed at 216 pounds, 5'9", 216. Kenny Gainwell, 5'9", 200. And Boston Scott, 5'6", 203. You don't have a big back on this football team. So what does that do? It forces you to use Jalen Hurts more in the running game, which at times it works. But I'd rather see them bring in a bigger running back who could actually contribute to this team than the only big running back you have on your roster is Rashad Penny, who you don't even trust enough to dress for these football games. So I'd rather see them do something like that than bring in a 34-year-old Julio Jones. But I don't hate the Julio Jones move. He's not taking a roster spot from anybody that I wanted to see them keep. Their wide receiver room was thin. Quez Watkins is on IR. They didn't keep a lot of wide receivers anyway to begin the season. So I'm okay with it. He's not going to mess up the chemistry. He's a good dude. He's played with A.J. Brown before. He's played with Olamide Zaccheaus before in Atlanta. I just don't know how much Julio Jones does for your football team at this point in his career. But I don't hate it. We'll see. Maybe Julio will catch a big touchdown. Surprise everybody. And he's another Alabama player. So you know how much the Philadelphia Eagles love Alabama players on that offense. But what do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are if you're in the comments on what you think about Julio Jones being added to this football team. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Subbed yo. What's up, man? What is up? But let's switch gears a little bit. Dr. Radcliffe will be here shortly. But I want to take a quick look around the NFL. Then we'll go to Dr. Radcliffe, talk some injuries, and then we'll close out the show previewing this Miami Dolphins game. But you look around the NFL, this was a week the Philadelphia Eagles really needed to win. We saw the San Francisco 49ers lose, dropping their record to 5-1. Now the Eagles are 5-1. And the Dallas Cowboys have a big win against the Los Angeles Chargers. They bounced back big. That's a big win for the Cowboys to stay in the race for the NFC East. And this Eagles schedule, we know, is going to start getting tough. This was a game the Eagles needed to win. Giants barely lose to the Bills, but they're 1-5. Pretty much out of it. Xavier Spencer, CMC is out this week. If you were following along on the show last week, I talked about how are the San Francisco 49ers giving Christian McCaffrey too many touches. And I'm seeing here he could play this week. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams all reportedly could play. But they may not need him against the Vikings. But we talked about Christian McCaffrey. Were they giving him too many touches? You got to be smart. It's a 17-game season. But the Giants are pretty much done at 1-5. The Washington Commanders, after the Philadelphia Eagles play the Dolphins this week, they got to go play the Commanders again, who just always play the Eagles tough for whatever reason. But, some of these other teams that people were concerned about in the NFC, Vikings are 2-4. The Bears lose to the Vikings to drop their record to 1-5. You remember all that chatter before the season about how the Bears were going to take that next step and Justin Fields was going to take a Jalen Hurts type leap in his next year? Bears are a mess, man. The Bears are a mess. Seahawks dropped to 3-2, losing to the Bengals. They look like maybe they can start to get some momentum, but there's still something off with that Bengals offense. Just not the same offense we've seen in previous years. And then you look at the Saints. They lose to the Texans. DeMeco Ryans has the Texans playing some good football. 3-3, beat the Saints. Some people were concerned about the Saints. And then Xavier, right where I was about to get there, the Detroit Lions, man. The Detroit Lions are playing very good football. They play a really tough style of football. They got some playmakers on that offense. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver, David Montgomery at running back. They're not doing much with Jahmyr Gibbs, but they're doing okay. Did Jahmyr Gibbs do anything this week? Not sure I even saw what Jahmyr Gibbs did in the Tampa Bay Bucks game. I'm taking a look at the stats now, but they move up to get him. Nah, didn't even give him a carry in this game. So I just don't get it. They move up to get Jahmyr Gibbs, and they just haven't really gotten him involved at all. Is he hurt? Or they didn't move up. They traded down, but they take him and they give the Eagles DeAndre Swift. But that's right. He had a hamstring injury. So he was out, but he's hopefully going to play this week. But still don't understand that move. Don't understand that move at all. Why you let a guy like DeAndre Swift walk out the door and use a first-round draft pick on Gibbs, who you barely used. Even before his injury, you were barely using him. But you look at this Philadelphia Eagles schedule, and this is what we were all concerned about, was things are going to start heating up. Things are going to start heating up. But at the beginning of the season, I'm going to give a little positive here. Hey, Brian Bidding, this is live, man. I see you in the chat. This is live. So feel free to engage, comment, whatever you need, man. I'm here. But you look at the beginning of the season on this Philadelphia Eagles team, to keep it positive for a second, we all would have probably signed up for a 5-1 start. It's just not the way we expected to get here. If they were going to lose to the New York Jets, you thought they were going to lose to the New York Jets when they had Aaron Rodgers. And I did a video, like many people did. Many analysts looked at the schedule before the season and went through win, loss, and you never freaking know. It's all a guess. But I had talked about how, hey, the Jets may be the first losable game for the Philadelphia Eagles. But that's when I thought they were going to have Aaron Rodgers. But you look at the schedule and the way it lined up, and the reason you see the Jets as a potential loss is it was a back-to-back road game for the Eagles. And I know it's not that far of a road game. You're only going right up the turnpike to New York. But they had just taken that West Coast trip to Los Angeles. And then you come back, you have to go on the road again to New York. But yes, Yale Roth, I see you in the chat. The Eagles gave that game away. If you weren't here for the beginning of the show when I had my rant about the Eagles, so don't think I'm giving them any excuses here. I talked about how the Jets didn't win this game. The Eagles lost this game because I still think the Jets freaking stink. And I think the Eagles' defense played well enough for them to win this game. It was the Eagles' offensive game plan, play calling, and execution that lost this football game. And I see Clean Music Lover. Analytics is ruining football. I don't understand why they won't run the damn ball on short gains with enough time. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. And this is what I don't understand, too. You talk about analytics. Well, I gave you the stats on analytics with regard to the Jets' 3 wins and the Jets' 3 losses. And in the Jets' 3 losses, the opposing offenses ran the football over 35 times. In the Jets' 3 wins, the opposing offenses only ran the ball 22 times. So if you are going to look at the analytics, I don't understand why you decide not to run the damn football. It doesn't make any sense. It's right in front of you. The game plan on how to beat this Jets team is right in front of you. Even Andy damn Reid, who refused to run the football when he was in Philadelphia at times, ran the ball 35 freaking times against the Jets, gave his running backs and wide receivers 28 carries in that game. And guess what? Chiefs win. But the Philadelphia Eagles decide to look at what the Broncos and the Bills did. Oh, wow, they only ran the ball 22 times. Let's do the same damn thing because they both lost. We're just going to show we're smarter than they are. Dumb. And you get me worked up again. I already went on my rant at the beginning of the game. I was trying to be positive here, saying, hey, look, we would have taken a 5-1 start. And we would not have been shocked at the beginning of the season if this was the game the Eagles lost on a back-to-back road game against a New York Jets team when we thought they had Aaron Rodgers. But this one was frustrating because of the way they lost this game. And Louise, I see you there. We need to use Penny on short yards. Scott is a stud on this situation either. BJ only using Gainwell. Why? Well, Louise, you may be just joining the show, and I talked about how I think Rashad Penny must be done. The injuries must have gotten to Rashad Penny because they're not even activating him on game days. So they clearly don't have any confidence in Rashad Penny. And like I said, if you saw him in the preseason, he didn't look like he had that same burst he had in Seattle. He just doesn't look like he's the same guy. So we just talked about how they signed Julio Jones. Like I said, talking about that, I'd rather see them bring in a big running back because we don't have one. Between Gainwell, Scott, and Swift, as much as I love all three of those guys, and I think all three of those guys can play a major factor on this team, especially DeAndre Swift with his playmaking ability, I still think you need a big back. I still think you need a big back. I see formerly known as Joe MC Pardue. Absolutely correct analysis. Appreciate you. Brian Bidding, exactly, with Aaron playing and Sauce and everybody else. Yeah, exactly. So we would have signed up for a 5-1 start. You just didn't like the way we got here because this was just such a frustrating loss. Just such a frustrating loss because we talked about it in the first segment. Teams don't go 17-0, and there's a reason why. You do have down games. But this was a down game where they could have stole a win because the defense played well enough against a really freaking bad Jets offense. And all Jalen Hurts had to do was not turn the ball over there. If he doesn't throw that interception, the Eagles, as bad as they played, even with the 3 other turnovers, with the Jake Elliott missed field goal, with all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, with how bad Jack Driscoll was playing at right tackle, they still win this damn game if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw that interception. And if you weren't here for the first segment, I talked about how what I found most concerning about that was what Tony Adams, the cornerback, said after the game when they asked him about that interception. He said the Jets coaches told him before the play, pretend like you're coming, drop back to this spot in coverage, and Jalen Hurts will throw the ball to you. And that's exactly what happened. That is more concerning to me because Jalen Hurts is clearly doing something that these Jets defensive coaches picked up that he can't read on a coverage. And that's bothering me. And again, I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. So don't attack me in the comments about how I'm picking on Jalen Hurts. I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. But that was unacceptable. Completely unacceptable for an MVP caliber quarterback to make that play in that moment. You just don't do it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And what else I don't like is, as frustrated as we all are about how they don't run the football, I'm sick of the excuses and the explaining away by Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni that, oh, some of these short passes we consider an extension of our running game. Bullshit. Run the damn football. We heard that crap with Andy Reid too at times. Run the football against a team that was 29th in the NFL. All right. Before we get into the Miami Dolphins preview, because there's a lot to talk about there, because that offense is one of the best offenses the NFL has seen in quite some time when you look at the stats. Want to bring in Dr. Radcliffe. Not sure if he's here yet. Xander, do we have Dr. Radcliffe yet waiting in the green room? He's not ready yet. All right, so we'll do, once Dr. Radcliffe gets here, we'll let him join the show. But we will take a quick look at some of these stats for this Miami Dolphins offense because it is scary, man. Just listen to some of these stats. Miami Dolphins, they're averaging 499 yards per game. Number 1 in the NFL. 499 yards per game. They're averaging 37 points per game. Number 1 in the NFL. 317 yards passing per game. Number 1 in the NFL. 182 yards rushing per game. Number 1 in the NFL. 8 yards per play. Number 1 in the NFL. 81% in the red zone. Number 1 in the NFL. Do you think they lead the league in a lot of categories in the NFL? So we'll talk about what I think the Philadelphia Eagles need to do to try to slow down this Miami Dolphins segment, in the next segment. But first, I want to bring in Dr. Radcliffe because we got a lot of injuries to talk about.
Yeah. Hey, buddy.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I've been better. I'm getting more worked up. I was starting to calm down after that loss. The Phillies win last night, so I was in a little bit better of a mood. But now I start talking about the game again, and I'm getting all worked up again, Doc.
Man, a Disney cruise, didn't bring the magic.
I feel like I need another vacation after that, man. But so for those of you who don't know Dr. Radcliffe, if you've tuned in before, you've seen him. He joins us every single week at 7:30. He was Harvard University undergrad, Duke Medical School. He's a spine surgeon. He's got offices in Cherry Hill and down the shore. Used to be on the sidelines with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I love to talk with him, but we were hopeful when we decided to do this. We weren't going to have a lot to talk about, but we need to jump right in because there's so much to talk about today. But Doc, let's first talk about one of the injuries that I think could be a big loss for this Philadelphia Eagles team. We saw it on Sunday. Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Rolls his ankle. There were some reports after the game that the MRI revealed that it was just a lateral ankle sprain. Can you tell us what Lane Johnson's probably dealing with and what his recovery time could look like?
Yeah, so the ankle is held together by a couple of ligaments, both on the lateral, the outside side of the ankle, as well as on the inside of the ankle. And then there are muscles that kind of act like secondary stabilizers. And unfortunately, I mean, it sounds like the X-rays did not show a fracture, but there certainly were what was damage to the ligaments. A sprain is damage to the ligaments connecting like bones to bones. And I guess the real concern here is given the way that it looked like, is it a high ankle sprain? So within the lower leg, there are two ligaments that are important. There's a tibia. There's two bones that are important, tibia and a fibula, and there's a ligament that kind of connects those two bones inside the lower leg. And if that ligament gets damaged, then it's called a high ankle sprain, and it's really very serious in terms of stability for the lower leg. I'm a little concerned given the way that it looked and the way that we're kind of handling it after the fact, that it sounds like this could be a high ankle sprain, which would be, a 3-month recovery period.
Oh, geez. That come on, give me some good news, Doc. Give me some good news. I mean, we know how tough Lane Johnson is. He's played through injuries in the past. There was some reports yesterday that there's a chance he could play in Week 7 against Miami. You think that's a really slim chance?
I really doubt it. Yeah. I mean, I think these guys get routine ankle sprains all the time. The kind like, if we're going for a run, Bill, and we just roll our ankle, that's like a routine ankle sprain of the ligaments at the very tip of the ankle. It's swollen, it hurts. That gets better in a short period of time. For these guys, you would think that at least by yesterday, if not today, that would be kind of clear cut and laid out. I'm a little concerned that this is more serious given the way that they're handling this, that he was immediately out of the game. I think it could involve some of it's called the tibiofibular ligament. And I'm concerned that it could be more serious than what maybe the initial reports described. I know. Right. I'm sorry.
Give me some better news on our cornerback, Darius Slay. He misses the game with a knee. Any word on that injury or when we could expect Slay to come back?
No, I unfortunately I don't really know. I don't know. I don't think I don't know much about it, and my sources aren't talking. But yeah, that was unexpected. for sure, and certainly it's something we have to watch.
Yeah, so that secondary has a lot of injuries. The other one,
A lot of
Reed Blank,
injuries.
yeah, Reed Blankenship leaves the game with a rib injury. He battled a rib injury earlier this season.
Yes.
Is it the same rib injury? Do we know? Is this going to keep him out for any extended period of time?
No, I don't know that we know it's the same rib. You know, there are 12 ribs in the body, and it sounds like it was just a bruise or a contusion to the rib before. I don't know that they've reported that it's like the same rib or not, but it's not uncommon for it to get kind of re-inflamed, re-injured, and for it to hurt again. I mean, the problem is these guys are getting, like high velocity injuries, and so as a result, they're pretty susceptible to recurrent injuries. I I still think that of the injuries we've seen and talked about this season, the rib injuries are some of the most benign, and therefore I'm optimistic about Reed being back in a short period of time.
So sticking in that secondary, then hopefully Reed's back there. Sidney Brown's missed a
Yeah.
couple of weeks with a hamstring. Any
Yeah.
chance we see him this week?
I think it's possible. You know, the hamstring injuries are kind of like, day to day, week to week. As I mentioned on the last podcast, there's a pretty well categorized algorithm for how to approach and rehab these injuries. They have to be able to run at full speed. They have to be able to like exercise in a certain way. And I think that what we're really seeing here is that he's just not ready yet, right? There are kind of three different levels of clearance that you have to be able to produce before you're exercising and performing at full speed. He's just not there yet. And so as a result, they rightfully held him back. The hamstring is a really important muscle on the back of the leg. It's critical in running because it gives you that explosive push off. And so as a result, if you have an injury to it, it kind of limits your like just that extra burst of speed that's critical for these guys. So you know, they can walk around fine and like do normal stuff just fine, but when they're really putting on the afterburners is when they have limitations. And so therefore the trainers have to be very cognizant of like how and when they're bringing these people back onto the field.
Yeah, and they didn't put Sidney Brown on IR, which they did
Yep.
do with Quez Watkins now. So
Yeah.
so Sidney Brown, this will be he's missed 2 or 3 weeks now. So hopefully he's able to come back because IR you're usually out for 4. So they were probably hopeful he wasn't
Yep.
going to miss 4 weeks.
Yep.
But Quez is on
Mhm.
IR. Justin Evans is now on IR with his knee.
Yeah, for the
And
knee. He got back from his neck and now he's got a knee.
Well, that has been kind of the knock on Justin Evans, unfortunately, throughout his career is he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Was promising coming
Yeah.
out of Texas A&M when he got to Tampa as a second-round draft pick. Just hasn't really been able to stay healthy. But a couple other injuries, and I don't know if we've gotten much information about them, but in the game, Bradley Roby, the newest addition to that secondary, leaves with a shoulder. And
Yeah.
Eli Ricks, the rookie who made this team in training camp, leaves with a knee. Any updates on them? Do we know anything about those injuries?
No, I don't have any additional information other than that which has been kind of put out there by the team. Don't know the seriousness of it or anything. I just don't know.
All right, and then the last one that had a lot of people nervous because this one popped up during practice was Jalen
I think
Carter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They all have us nervous.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Well, this whole team has us nervous right now, but we're still 5-1.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay positive, but
Yeah.
Jalen Carter
Yeah.
injures his ankle in practice and is forced to miss the game. Haven't heard much. I mean, Nick Sirianni says it's probably going to keep him out for Sunday, but they don't think it was a long-term thing. That was before the Jets game. I haven't heard anything yet. They haven't had to put out their initial injury reports because they didn't practice yesterday. But what are you hearing or what do you know about Jalen Carter's ankle?
So I think that's more of a traditional ankle sprain, which is kind of like, just something that normal weekend warriors and exercise enthusiasts would encounter, which is just damage to the delicate ligaments connecting the like the fibula to kind of the foot. That I think will be much quicker recovery, and that's more amenable to taping. The the concern with these high ankle sprains is you can't tape, you can't support the leg because it's the whole like lower extremity, the tibia, the fibula, and the mortise, the ankle mortise, the talus. So I I think that we'll see Jalen Carter back sooner rather than later.
That's going to be good because we're going to need all hands on deck this weekend against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday night. But, Doc, as always, appreciate your time. If you guys are following along, Dr. Chris Radcliffe from the Spinal Disc Center offices down in Summers Point, is it?
Yep. Thank you.
Summers Point,
and Cherry
Hill,
Hill,
New Jersey.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
obviously, obviously he knows his stuff.
I hate that we have so much to talk about. But yeah, I still think I still think that all these injuries for the most part, and putting aside Avonte Maddox and kind of the seasons, some of the other more gravid injuries, I still think that our team will be healed and ready to go by the playoffs.
Yeah, that is the one positive here is Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson both out for the season. But thankfully, it looks like some of these others are just minor injuries that are keeping players off the field for a week or two, but not season ending, which is huge.
Right, we're talking about soft tissue injuries, not bone injuries, and for the most part, it's a week or two. It's a strain or sprain, and it's just an issue of they're performing at such a high level. And the people they're opposing are performing at such a high level that, before they're put back in the game, we have to be 100% sure that they're safe and healthy before we get them back on the field because we don't want any additional injuries.
I 100% agree. Let's be healthy for the playoffs, hopefully. But we're hitting a gauntlet part of our schedule soon, so this Philadelphia Eagles team has to improve from the way they played this past weekend. But, Doc, I appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
Dr. Chris Radcliffe, Spinal Disc Center. We'll talk next week, my man.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, buddy.
All right, so there's Dr. Chris Radcliffe. Didn't like what he had to say about Lane Johnson, thinking it's a little bit more serious than what it's being reported. We'll have to keep monitoring that because Lane Johnson, we know, future Hall of Famer at right tackle. The Philadelphia Eagles offense just hasn't been the same over the years without Lane Johnson in there. But let's hope Lane Johnson, man, he's proved us wrong before, can get out there sooner rather than later. But, guys, we're going to take one more quick break. When we get back, I want to focus on this Miami Dolphins game on Sunday night before we get ready for that Philadelphia Phillies Game 2. Stay tuned, guys.
There is a reason why the Garden Medical Spa, with 4 locations in New Jersey, has arguably the best customer reviews in America for a boutique medical spa. At the Garden Medical Spa, there is no fluff, just results. For the best in Botox, chemical peels, dermal fillers, hydrofacials, laser hair removal, and so much more, please visit thegardenmedspa.com. Book an appointment now in Voorhees, Sewell, Collingswood, or Northfield. Thegardenmedspa.com. No fluff, just results.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Legal Hands to the Face show with your man, Bill Colarulo. Dank Kelly Green Burrito making an appearance in the chat. What's up, Dank? Usually see him or her, not sure, at the Philly Sports Power Hour. Good to see you here at the Legal Hands to the Face show. Ro G, go Phillies. That is right, man. Go Phillies. We're going to take you guys to the 8 o'clock hour tonight, and you can go turn on the Phils. But we just got done talking with Dr. Chris Radcliffe. I want to turn my focus now to this Miami Dolphins game on Sunday. And this is going to be a challenge. Definitely the best team this Philadelphia Eagles team has played all season long. And we talked about some of these. Dank Kelly, him. Okay, what's up, man? The Miami offense, told you, number one in the NFL, averaging 499 yards per game. The Philadelphia Eagles are actually number two in total offense per game at 395. Think about that. 499 yards per game, and the number two team is the Philadelphia Eagles at 395. The Miami Dolphins are averaging over 100 more yards per game than the number two team, the Philadelphia Eagles. But what has me really concerned with this Dolphins team is, they can run the football. They've averaged 182 yards per game on the ground. But we know this Philadelphia Eagles defense has been pretty good against the run. They're currently number two in the NFL, only giving up 65.8 yards per game. They're only giving up 3.6 yards per carry. That's not the part of this Dolphins team that has me overly concerned. Yeah, you need to be worried about it. But Devin Achane, that stud rookie, he's out. They still have Raheem Mostert, who's got 400 yards this year, 429 yards. He's averaging 5.7 yards per carry and 9 touchdowns. But what has me concerned, and Xavier, I'm right with you. Xavier says the secondary, yes, is this Miami Dolphins passing offense. This Philadelphia Eagles secondary is not only banged up, but even when they were healthy, they haven't really been able to shut down the pass. Philadelphia Eagles defense is 20th in the NFL, giving up over 232 yards a game. And this Miami offense, 317 yards per game through the air is what they are averaging. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa, number 1 in the NFL in passing yards. And wide receiver Tyreek Hill, his stats look like he's playing a freaking video game, man. 42 catches, 814 yards, 6 touchdowns, 19.4 yards per reception. Let's put that into perspective for a second. A.J. Brown, who's having one of the best seasons we've ever seen for a Philadelphia Eagle, has 42 catches for 672 yards. Tyreek Hill has over 140 yards more than A.J. Brown has, and A.J. Brown's having what I would consider an unbelievable season for this Philadelphia Eagles team. What Tyreek Hill is doing is unfreaking real. 19.4 yards per catch. A.J. Brown's averaging 16 yards a catch, which is still pretty damn good, but Tyreek Hill is on a different level. And you're talking about a Philadelphia Eagles secondary who let Mac Jones throw for over 300 yards, who let Sam Howell have a day, who let Kirk Cousins throw for over 300 yards. I don't know how they stop Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert out of the backfield. This Philadelphia Eagles defense has their hands full. And let's keep looking. Red zone. Philadelphia Eagles defense, 25th in the NFL, giving up touchdowns 65% of the time. Miami scoring touchdowns 81% of the time in the red zone. You know what the Eagles are in the red zone? 23rd in the NFL on offense. They only score touchdowns 45% of the time. Think about the difference between those two teams. Just what they do in the red zone. This Eagles offense has to get better in the red zone, and this Eagles defense has to get better in the red zone. That's how you win football games. Now, one of the things I see in the chat, a lot of people are talking about how the only way this Philadelphia Eagles team can win this game is to get pressure on Tua. Reddick's got to get there. Hopefully Jalen Carter's healthy, causing interior pressure. The problem is this Miami offense has only given up 6 sacks this season. Number 2 in the NFL. Now, the Eagles have been good. 20 sacks puts them in the top 5. But this Miami offense doesn't give up a lot of sacks. Eagles got to figure out a way to get there. They have to figure out a way to get to Tua. And it's not going to be easy for this Philadelphia Eagles offense either. But it's certainly a lot better for the Eagles offense than it is for the Eagles defense, because we know how good the Dolphins offense is. I just went through how many damn categories they're number 1 in the NFL. Now, the one thing I should say before we move over to the Miami defense, Miami has turned the ball over a little bit this year. Tied for 20th in the league. They got 9 turnovers. Can the Eagles force Tua to throw some interceptions? Can they force some fumbles? They're going to need it. They're going to need to do something on that defensive side of the ball to try to disrupt this high-powered offense. Now, I highly doubt Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni are listening to me today. But hopefully they're listening to the millions of Eagles fans who were calling for the Eagles to run the football against the New York Jets. And they're going to listen this week because, in my opinion, with how banged up our secondary is and how bad our secondary has played this year and how good this Miami Dolphins offense is, the only recipe for the Philadelphia Eagles to win this football game on Sunday is to win the time of possession battle. Control the clock. Keep Tua and Tyreek and Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle on the damn sidelines. And how do you do that? Run the frickin' football. Win the time of possession battle. Keep that offense on the damn sidelines. And this Miami Dolphins team, 20th in the NFL against the run. Run the football this week. Control the clock. Yes, Xavier. Exactly. Control the clock. The Eagles are still the number 2 rushing offense in the NFL. Run the football, control the clock, keep that high-powered offense on the sidelines. And if the Eagles try to throw the ball, got to be careful. Even though the Miami Dolphins are 19th in the NFL, giving up 229 per game in the air, they're tied for number 3 in sacks. They have 21 sacks this year. We talked about the Eagles. The Eagles have 20. Dolphins have 21. They got some guys that can really get after the quarterback. We all know the name Bradley Chubb, but Van Ginkel, 4 sacks. Zach Seiler, 4 sacks. Jalen Phillips can get after the quarterback. But one of the surprising things to me is Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle, has 3.5 sacks. You cause interior pressure. We see it. We see what this Philadelphia Eagles team can do with Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox and Milton Williams in the middle of that defensive line, Jordan Davis. You cause interior pressure, it causes a lot of disruption on those opposing offenses. Look out for Christian Wilkins. Jason Kelce has his hands full this week. But the Philadelphia Eagles need to run the football. Some other positives before we end the show so we don't leave this all angry. The Miami Dolphins defense hasn't been very good in the red zone. So as bad as the Philadelphia Eagles offense has been, 45%, 23rd in the NFL, Miami Dolphins defense hasn't been very good in the red zone. They're 26th in the NFL, allowing teams to score 67% of the time. Actually, a little bit worse than the Eagles' red zone defense, believe it or not. So that is the one positive. This Miami Dolphins defense hasn't been great. Their offense is just one of the best offenses we've seen in the last few years. The greatest show on surf. So control the clock. Win the time of possession battle. Take advantage of a weak run defense for this Miami Dolphins team. And the Philadelphia Eagles can get out of there with a win on Sunday night in our Kelly Green. Don't embarrass us on Sunday night in Kelly Green. We've been waiting for the Kelly Green. For years, we've been calling for it. Don't embarrass us this week. And the one positive of losing to the New York Jets is you would hope that this team, who has shown over the years with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, is that they have an ability to overcome adversity. What did Nick Castellanos say for the Phillies? We play our best after we get punched in the face. The Philadelphia Eagles have been a similar breed over the years with Sirianni and Hurts. In the face of adversity, they come back stronger. And I'm expecting them to do that this weekend against this high-powered Miami Dolphins offense. But you need to run the football. You need a better game plan. You need to win the time of possession battle. That's the only shot you have of winning this football game. But guys, we come to you once a week on the Legal Hands to the Face show. It'll go back to Monday nights next week at 6:30. But I come to you every day if you're here tuning in on the JAKIB Sports Network on the Philly Sports Power Hour from 10 to 11. So be sure to tune in. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the Phillies. We're going to talk more about the Philadelphia Eagles. On Friday, we'll be joined by Eagles insider Dave Spadaro on the Philly Sports Power Hour. So be sure, if you're not already subscribed to the JAKIB Sports Network, check it out. I also do their pregame, halftime, and postgame shows with my man Mark Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn, Mike Missinelli, Kayla Santiago, John McMullen. So it's a great crew, a great channel, a lot of great sports shows. If you love Philadelphia sports, you'll love the JAKIB Sports Network. So make sure you're subscribed to the Legal Hands to the Face and JAKIB Sports. Xavier, I appreciate you. I see in the comments. I love your takes on Philly and the NFL in general. Really appreciate the support, Xavier. Everybody who's here, before you leave, make sure you hit that like button, hit that share button. Let's reach as many Philadelphia Eagles fans as possible. And hopefully I'll see all of you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on the JAKIB Sports Network for the Philly Sports Power Hour. Appreciate you guys tonight. As always, go Birds and talk soon.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.